welcome back. Happy June 20th. Celebrating Juneteenth today because it's a federal holiday, bank holiday officially. It was Father's Day yesterday. Summer is in full swing, or not really, but the official start of summer is tomorrow, the longest day of the year. I'm excited for that. About 3 weeks, completely random, away from the James Webb Telescope sending colored pictures back to Earth, which I think is going to be the beginning of us knowing that there's aliens. But until then, let's talk about the week we missed. This has been something that's been going on for a little bit. It's definitely a little bit local to Philly, at least in some sense. It was a lot of news for the whole semester. There's this Penn swimmer. I believe their name is Leah Thomas or Thompson, maybe. He was a boy, transitioned to a female only a couple of years ago. They're about 22 years old, senior in college. When they were a freshman and sophomore, they were a male, and they swam collegiately, and they weren't too good. And then they became a female, and they smashed records and won everything. And even people on their own team said that they didn't really like it too much because it wasn't really fair. There's people who've been training for their whole lives and then like had a spot on the team and all of a sudden didn't. So there's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of debate. There was just a decision made, looks like this weekend or very recently, by the International Swimming Governing Body, whatever, that if you are a if you're transitioning or you transitioned, that it has to be before the age of 12 years old if you want to be able to compete in the new gender league. I think that that's maybe an improvement from what the policy was before, but I don't think it was the right decision, and I feel like it could backfire in some ways. What I think would have been maybe a better decision, I still think, is there should be a third league for people who transition, for men, for women, a completely open league for absolutely anyone and everyone, and that should just be an open league. Then there should be a male league and a female league for people who were born a certain way and stayed a certain way forever. Why do I think that? Because yeah, this new idea sounds all right, 12 years old, but you're going to have a lot of 11-year-olds with some tough choices now and tough decisions to make. And I've seen quite a few news articles, documentaries, whatever, that there's people who transition and regret the decision and want to go back. And those people are 17, 18, 19 years old even. Imagine how much more often that's going to happen when you have 12-year-olds saying that you have to decide if you're a boy or a girl now, because if you want to continue competing in sports or whatnot. I wore like makeup and nail polish when I was 9 years old, 10 years old. If someone told me I could be a girl, who knows what I would have said? Like, are you really thinking then? What do you think, Todd?
You know, I think I do think it's interesting, and I think you're right. I think the solution to this is creating an open division. And realistically, I think that the cleanest way to do it is that you just make male divisions an open division. Like, if you think about it, all professional sports are basically open division sports. Right. It's just like there's no rules that says a woman cannot play in the national football, national basketball, national baseball leagues. They can. It's just no one has tried because given the way biology works, they probably wouldn't make the team. There's nothing to say they can't though. So I think, but you know, it's really sad when you see, and you know, they've done anonymous interviews with UPenn swim members who are, you know, teammates of Leah's, and basically saying that, you know, they've talked to their coaches privately, and their coaches have basically been like, you need to just be quiet about this because if you speak up, your entire life could be ruined.
Yeah, that's tough.
You will be canceled. Like, you will be a transphobe, and you will be, you know, not have a good future at all. And not just in sports, they're talking about like employment opportunities and just like having a decent life into the future. So I think this is probably the right decision to make. I've been seeing some weird takes on Twitter. On the right, people are being like, well, this rule isn't good because now it's just going to make kids transition before the age of 12, which I think is a really dumb take. I don't think that's true at all. And then I actually saw someone on the left tweet, and they're like a medical doctor, or at least they had doctor in their Twitter name, so who knows what that means. But they said that this ruling is going to prevent people that are trans from learning how to swim, which will lead to an increased number of drownings. Yeah, no, I shit you not. So
I'm like, I don't even really understand that like at all, but
no, it's wild. It's one of the dumbest takes I think I've ever seen on Twitter, which is really saying something. So I think it's and this is complicated, and I think it's at the
definitely
same time,
complicated.
like I think people that are trans should be able to compete in all this, but it's like it needs to remain somewhat competitive. Like the whole reason that we split things off into various divisions is to try to create fairness. I mean, and not just looking at gender, but if you look at sports like combat sports like boxing, MMA, kickboxing, etc., you have weight classes. You have weight classes for a
Yeah,
reason. Because
exactly.
if kickboxing was just open and you had someone who was 120 pounds and 5'10" fighting someone who is 6'5" and 250, they're going to crush them. They might kill them.
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting to see, how this will play out. And actually an interesting take that I've seen on this is that I've seen a lot of people that are, people that were fighting for trans rights, for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and basically being like, this movement to get about trans in sports is really setting us back because it's making people see, like, the average person, and they've been polling on this time and time again, the majority of people don't think that trans women should be able to compete against sort of biological women. And I apologize in advance if I'm not using the correct terminology, but this is sort of a losing issue for the trans movement in general. And most people don't like it. And most people think it's wrong. And the fact that they keep pushing this is really bringing to the surface aspects of the trans rights movement that many people disagree with. And that is also spilling into now people sort of becoming more transphobic and everything else. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see how they ruled. I think it will be interesting to see how people respond. I think,
and if other sports, I think it'll be interesting if other sports follow suit, because this is just swimming right now, because swimming was the big talk of the year. But will it be in other sports also?
Well, and I think it very well could. And I think look, the tipping points is going to be, because realistically, especially at the collegiate level or even like the Olympic level, if you in sports that are individual sports like track and field, swimming, I guess like tennis potentially, and just some other ones, if you had 3, 4, 5 trans women in the women's division, you could be reaching a point where the entire podium is trans women. And I think just like the optics of that are going to strike people really, really weirdly. And it's going to make people being like, wait, what are we doing here? Like, what is going on? Like, and
I think I actually like saw a podium, not where all 3 were trans, but I think like 2 of them were, and like 3rd place was the only natural woman. And someone said like, this is weird and not really right. But also I think what makes this like even more just weird, interesting, ironic, whatever the word might be, is last year or whenever there was the Olympics. I lost track of the years and all of that because the 2020 Olympics were in 2021 or something. But there was, I think, a lady from Jamaica maybe, or somewhere where they're very good at track and field, and she was not allowed to compete because her testosterone levels were too high. And she was a natural born woman and a woman, not trans at all. And it's like, wait, you have natural women who aren't allowed to compete, but then you have people who are born men who are allowed to compete. It's a little, it's weird. I don't know what else to say. I'm not against it at all. I just think it's an interesting, weird situation.
This is an issue that I have literally no dog in the fight. Like I have no reason to sort of care, but it definitely strikes the average person as odd. And I can only imagine if you're the parent of a girl athlete who your daughter was competing for scholarships and admissions into like top schools based on their prowess, and now they're getting knocked out and not able to sort of achieve that. It can be devastating for a very small group of people, but at the same time, it can really fuck things up. And at the same time, though, I understand that, the desire of trans people to be included and to be treated like the gender that they are identifying with. So, like I said, I got no dog in this fight, but I think it's a complex issue that is going to have a lot of sort of policy passed around it in the coming years. And I think it's going to be really important to try to come to a compromise solution where both sides are like, all right, this will work, versus
Yeah,
trying to like demand that we
that's
get
not
the
gonna happen.
solution. Of course, it's not going to happen. It's
Yeah,
impossible.
I can bet
All
on
right.
that. What do you got for us?
I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter. I feel like the past few weeks has been heavy. We're talking about like gun violence and kids dying and civil war and trans rights and all this. So, obviously, did you see the video of Joe Biden falling over on his bike?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see the full video yet. Actually, I only saw pictures and stuff. I missed it.
There's like 5 different angles. There's like multiple angles of it, but it's just funny because like, first of all, and I know what his problem was. When he on those bikes, like, well, he didn't have clips. He had the little foot baskets. So it's like, you don't need the special shoes, but it allows you to like get force when you're pulling up, not just pushing down. And he comes to a stop and takes his left foot out, and then he can't really get his right foot out in time and just sort of like topples over. And I think the thing to me, it's that like, people are one, if obviously if it was a Republican, you would not be able to not see the video. It would be splashed across every single late night thing and just ha ha ha. But with this, it's like, and people are like, how dare people make fun of the president for this? Like, and it's like, come on, can we all take a joke? Like, these people are not our gods. They're not our kings. They're not our emperors. Like, that's funny. If I saw that happen to anyone, I would laugh.
he is
like,
a little old. He is a little old.
Yeah. No, he definitely, and it's like, I'm glad he's okay. He didn't seem to hurt himself in any way, but like, that's a funny thing. And I'm sorry when people are like, how dare you make fun of the president? It's like, I would laugh if that happened to a child. Like, it's funny when people fall over, it's funny. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny.
So what about this though? Do you think it actually means like that he is declining in health and all of that? Like a lot of people said that. I honestly don't I don't think he's in maybe as bad shape as a lot of people say. Like he actually moves fairly quickly for an 80-year-old, in my opinion. But I did see like videos of him in the 90s talking, like having speeches in front of Congress, and he was quick and like sharp. And to see him talk now where he like whispers and like barely says anything, and it's not his lisp. I know he has a lisp. I'm not judging his lisp at all. He was sharp though 25 years ago, and when you see it side by side, like there's definitely a difference. I don't know if like he's just slower and it sounds like he's not as smart, but there is a difference, and it's not something like you can just ignore.
Yeah, no, and I think, look, I don't judge him. I don't think the bike incident has anything to do with him cognitively otherwise. And I think you're right. Look, I have had 80-year-old grandparents. He is probably in the top percentile in terms of like, certainly I think physical abilities as an 80-year-old. And look, I think the more concerning thing to me, like, I don't care about the bike. To me, that's just funny. I think the thing that makes me doubt his competency or ability to rule this country is watching him speak. Because you're absolutely right. And how list that he has, it's that he had a stutter growing up, and everyone always blames it that it's always dealing with the stutter. And it's like, look, I get that, and I see that they can do it, but when like he just blatantly goes off topic or just like freezes for like 10 seconds, like, I don't know, man. Like, and again, who am I to judge? But I think that I think the bike thing is hilarious. I think people's reaction to being like, how dare you make fun of him, is pathetic. And I hate these people that like stand politicians or try to defend them. But like, I think the bigger thing is that this guy, it's just like his administration is sort of like a joke, like at every level. And it doesn't instill confidence. And it just, I don't know, man. Like there was his press secretary who is not doing that great of a job. She's no Jen Psaki, but someone asked her like, "Hey, do you have any update on the baby formula crisis?" And she literally like spent like 10 seconds flipping through a binder, looking. She's like, "Let me check to see if I have anything," and then just looks at me and goes, "No, I have nothing on this." And it's like, how can you come to a press conference not prepared to at least have some sort of window dressing comment about one of the most like pressing crises that are going on in America right now?
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes that you're probably behind. Like that's not you can't be too mad at COVID because COVID is random. You can't be too mad at the Ukraine crisis because the Ukraine crisis, like you can't control it. But the baby formula was our fault, and like I don't know. That's interesting to just ignore that and not have someone say. I didn't see that.
No, it was not a good display, because it's like, how could you assume you wouldn't necessarily get a question about this?
And is there an update with that? Not to go too far off topic, but they don't know what's going on with that still? There's still a big shortage?
No, I think they're still trying to spin up, production. I believe the Abbott facility has reopened, but, they got to sort of re-ramp up. And, just a quick comment on that. I've seen on a lot of people have been being like, well, this is what the free market does. Haha, look at the free market failing us again. And it's like, baby formula, baby food is one of the most highly regulated products in this country.
There's 4 manufacturers. You can't have real competition with less than 6 competitors. So like, it's really not a free market at all.
No, and that's the thing that is just like so perplexing. It's like, yeah, you know what? We should have been allowing the importation of European baby formulas if people want them. Like, who cares that it doesn't meet like our, like if someone wants to give their kid European baby formula, they should be able to buy it easily. They shouldn't have to like have someone buy it in Europe and then like FedEx it to them in order to get it. Like,
Europe better too, probably. They're probably healthier and have better regulations, ones that actually, like, there's so many foods that aren't allowed in Europe that are allowed in America. It doesn't make sense, but I don't know, crazy. I'm glad we took it a little light though, because I'm still like getting worked up and upset, and there wasn't even too bad of a week or stuff that we brought up. But I think that's about all. I got to get to a meeting. I know you got to get to a meeting. Todd, it was good as always. Thanks for coming on. I'll see you next week on The Week You Missed. Peace.